UFC and MMA fighters are known for their toughness, stepping into the octagon prepared to battle. But for some, their hardest fight didn't happen inside the cage. It happened in real life, where things took a grim and violent turn.
Local MMA fighter wanted for a vicious attack on his ex-girlfriend is behind bars tonight. The manhunt for War Machine involved Dog the Bounty Hunter.
From Phil Baroni, once a fan favorite known for his explosive knockouts, who later got arrested for allegedly taking the life of his girlfriend in Mexico.
Former UFC fighter Phil Baroni is in custody in Mexico for allegedly murdering his girlfriend.
To Alexis Vila, an Olympic wrestler who went from an inspiring athlete to being involved in a deadly murder-for-hire plan.
Former mixed martial arts fighter was sentenced today for his part in a murder-for-hire plot.
These are the UFC and MMA fighters who became tied to real-life killings. We begin with Phil Baroni, whose story had highs, lows, and an ending no MMA writer could have imagined. Born in Massapequa Park, New York, Baroni seemed destined for combat. In high school, he was a wrestler, later becoming an amateur bodybuilder. With a strong chin and knockout power, he joined the UFC in 2001 and quickly gained fame as a hard-hitting fighter. After defeating Dave Menn in 2002, he called himself the best EVA, a claim only he truly believed. Baroni's career was full of ups and downs, exciting but chaotic. He fought in Pride, Strikeforce, and Bellator, taking on fighters like Frank Shamrock and Matt Lindland. He even stepped into professional wrestling and bare-knuckle boxing. His record ended at 16 wins and 19 losses, not impressive on paper, but fans loved him for his personality and showmanship rather than his win streak. Then came the real-life tragedy. In January 2023, Baroni was arrested in Mexico for allegedly killing his girlfriend, Paola. Reports said they had been drinking and smoking marijuana when Paola admitted to being unfaithful. In anger, Baroni allegedly threw her into the shower, causing her to hit her head twice. He later covered her with a blanket and left to buy cigarettes, only to return and find her unresponsive. The MMA community was stunned. Those who once admired his fighting spirit couldn't comprehend how he could end up in such a situation. Some viewed it as another sad downfall of a fighter past his prime, while others pointed out his known history of aggression and steroid use, warning signs that had long been ignored. Baroni's story, once about determination and toughness, became a grim warning of how quickly a fighter's strength can turn destructive. If there was ever a walkout song for this chapter of his life, it would be silence, because no victory came from this fight. Now, the next fighter's story makes things even darker, showing just how far some of these athletes can fall. Homer Moore. Homer Moore's path to the UFC was built on raw athletic ability, but his life took a shocking and deadly turn. Born on November 12, 1971 in Arizona, Moore grew up as a talented wrestler. He won the 1992 National Junior College Athletic Association Championship while competing for Phoenix College. His success earned him a place in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, marking him as one of the best in his field. But outside the ring, his life began to fall apart. In the late 1990s, Moore switched from wrestling to mixed martial arts. He started strong, earning 10 straight victories over 3 years. His dedication earned him a chance to fight in the UFC in 2001, where he faced future middleweight champion Evan Tanner. Despite his efforts, Moore lost the match by a second-round armbar submission. From that point on, his fighting career never really recovered. He competed in smaller promotions, including the IFL, but injuries and misfortune held him back. Then came the crime that would destroy his future. In 2014, Moore was arrested for the 1999 killing of 19-year-old Karam Hussein Jabbar. The case had gone unsolved for years, but Moore's own arrogance brought it back to life. According to police, he often bragged about his involvement in the killing while drinking in bars, making it an open secret. Eventually, witnesses came forward, giving authorities enough information to charge him with first-degree murder. Investigators revealed that Jabbar's decomposed body had been found in the trunk of a car parked at a supermarket back in 1999. He had died from asphyxiation, and police later determined the incident was connected to a failed drug deal. Moore had been a prime suspect for years, and in 2014, his freedom came to an end. As of 2024, he remains in prison. But the next fighter on this list took violence to a whole new level, with a massacre that left an entire country stunned. Marcelo Aravena. Marcelo Aravina's life was chaotic from the start, a mix of hardship, violence, and poor choices that shaped his tragic path. Born on April 11, 1976 in Chile, he moved to Canada and grew up in Winnipeg. From an early age, he had a rough reputation. Locals called him the Great White Chilean Ape because of his intimidating size and low intelligence. He dropped out of school, worked several low-paying jobs, and bounced between short-term gigs. He found comfort in fighting. As a part-time bouncer, boxer, and MMA fighter, he built a modest career in combat sports. His professional record was an unimpressive 7-31-1, but he was known for one thing: his ability to keep getting back up. As he once said, "I kept getting up and fighting." But his strength and loyalty would soon be used in the wrong way. By the mid-2000s, Aravina had joined the Bandidos, a notorious outlaw biker gang known for violence and drug trafficking. Lacking strategy but full of muscle, he became one of the enforcers for gang leader Michael Sandom. His life took a darker turn after 2005 when his cousin, best friend, and roommate were killed in a bar fight. The tragedy pushed him deeper into drug use and crime. He began living in the basement of Dwight Mushi, another Bandidos member, who would later drag him into a bloody gang war. In 2006, tensions between the Bandidos and a rival faction known as the No Surrender Crew led to one of Canada's most shocking mass killings, the Shedden Massacre. 8 men were killed in a rural Ontario farm. Aravina's role wasn't as a shooter. Instead, he was ordered to stand guard over the captives with a baseball bat. Even though he didn't fire a weapon, his involvement made him just as guilty. He was arrested in June 2006 and charged with 7 counts of first-degree murder. In court, Aravina tried to defend himself by claiming he was too unintelligent and frightened to stop what happened. But his claim didn't hold up. His behavior after the verdict only made things worse. He cursed at the jury and made obscene gestures after being found guilty. Today, he's serving a life sentence at Stony Mountain Penitentiary, spending his remaining years behind bars. Next, we move to another fighter whose weakness and fear led him to commit a horrifying act of violence: Philip Keller. Philip Keller's name might sound familiar, especially to fans who followed Titan FC between 2019 and 2020. Before his name became tied to tragedy, Keller was simply another fighter working to build his career in MMA. He had the drive, strength, and ambition to make it big. But behind the power and punches was a darkness that would eventually surface. Keller's life took a terrifying turn, one that would destroy both his reputation and his freedom. His fiancée, Alicia "Red" Campitelli, was a tattoo artist and piercer who had become a source of hope in his troubled life. Alicia, admired for her kindness and resilience, had overcome her past struggles with addiction and dedicated herself to helping others find the same path to recovery. But with Keller's continued battle with substance abuse and their volatile relationship, their story was doomed to end in heartbreak. In May 2021, everything collapsed. In a rage fueled by drugs, Keller fatally shot Alicia inside their apartment. What made the situation even more horrifying was his reaction afterward. He waited several hours before contacting authorities, raising even more questions about his intentions. And if that wasn't disturbing enough, investigators discovered that Keller had used Alicia's debit card after her death, withdrawing hundreds of dollars, a cruel act that showed how far gone he was. When Keller finally appeared in court, he seemed emotional, wiping away tears several times during his plea hearing. His lawyer, Mario Pirolo, admitted that Keller's addiction played a large role in what happened. Originally charged with first-degree murder, Keller eventually accepted a plea deal that reduced the charge to second-degree murder, leading to a 25-year prison sentence. Alicia's family, devastated but determined, launched the Taka Justice for Red movement to honor her memory and seek accountability. In court, Keller appeared remorseful, but his tears couldn't undo what he had done. His MMA career ended in disgrace, overshadowed by the horror he caused. Meanwhile, Alicia's loved ones were left grieving, a woman remembered for her compassion, strength, and the positive impact she had made after turning her life around. Up next is the story of Alexis Vila, a world-class athlete whose talent couldn't save him from the deadly consequences of revenge. Alexis Vila, Born on March 12, 1971, in Villa Clara, Cuba, Alexis Vila grew up in a rough environment where street fights were part of everyday life. But even in those streets, it was clear he had a gift for combat. That natural skill pushed him into wrestling, where he rose to international fame by winning a bronze medal at the 1996 Olympic Games. In Cuba, he became a national hero, but that same fame set the stage for a dramatic fall. After defecting to the United States in 1997, Vila turned his focus to mixed martial arts. He began fighting professionally in 2004 and made a strong impression in Bellator, famously defeating Joe Warren in an upset victory. Nicknamed The Exorcist, Vila earned his reputation through his unmatched control and wrestling dominance inside the cage. In 2011, he reached the finals of the Bellator bantamweight tournament, but came up short of victory. Following that, Vila continued competing in smaller promotions like the World Series of Fighting, though his record fluctuated. But that same year, 2011, his name became linked to something far darker than MMA. The case involved businessman Camilo Salazar, who was having an affair with the wife of wealthy supermarket owner Manuel Marin. Enraged by the betrayal, Marin sought revenge. He reached out to Vila, a man he had once helped defect from Cuba, to organize a deadly plan. While training for an upcoming fight in Las Vegas, Vila coordinated with an associate named Roberto Isaac to kidnap Salazar. They abducted him and brought him to a warehouse where Marin awaited. What followed was a gruesome sequence of violence. Salazar was beaten, tortured, and eventually killed in cold blood. Although Vila claimed he didn't know what would happen to Salazar, prosecutors didn't buy it. His role in setting up and executing the kidnapping made him just as responsible. He was convicted of second-degree murder, conspiracy, and kidnapping, receiving a 15-year prison sentence. Once seen as a symbol of Cuban pride and determination, Vila's story became one of greed, loyalty gone wrong, and the violent end of what could have been a lasting legacy in sports. Now, our next fighter's fall from grace is equally disturbing. His violent outburst nearly cost 2 people their lives, and his name became forever linked to brutality. Jonathan Paul Koppenhaver. Jonathan Paul Koppenhaver, better known by his MMA nickname War Machine, had a career that started with potential and ended in one of the most disturbing scandals in combat sports history. Born in Simi Valley, California, on November 30th, 1981, he had a rough start in life. When his father died from a heart attack at just 13 years old, Jonathan was forced to take care of his younger siblings. This difficult childhood shaped his temper and deep emotional scars, which would later spill into his career and relationships. Koppenhaver entered the MMA scene in 2006 when he joined The Ultimate Fighter, Season 6, as a last-minute replacement. He didn't win the show, but he stood out for his personality and raw aggression. By 2008, he officially changed his name to War Machine and made his UFC debut, defeating Jared Rollins in a memorable knockout at the Ultimate Fighter finale. However, his momentum didn't last long. Later that same year, he lost to Yoshiyuki Yoshida by submission, and soon after, his life started spiraling downward. By 2009, War Machine announced he would also work in the adult film industry while continuing to fight. He signed with LA Direct Models and filmed his first scene with actress Riley Steele. Despite some MMA success in organizations like Bellator and Extreme Fighting Championships, he couldn't escape his own behavior. His life outside the cage became filled with violent incidents, resulting in multiple assault arrests. In 2010, he served time for felony assault, but returned to fighting once released. For a short while, it seemed like he might turn his life around. But then came the incident that destroyed everything. In 2014, War Machine brutally attacked his ex-girlfriend, adult film actress Christy Mack, and her boyfriend, Corey Thomas. The attack lasted several hours and left Christy with 18 broken facial bones, a ruptured liver, missing teeth, and severe internal injuries.
Now, while Mack was lying on the floor in the bathroom, Koppenhaver told her, "That's my I'm going to take it back now." Koppenhaver then licked his hand and put it on her. He told her that he was going to her, but he could not get hard and he was mad about it.
War Machine went on the run for a week before being captured. He was charged with 34 counts and ultimately convicted on 29 of them, including kidnapping, assault, and attempted murder. In 2017, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 36 years. His case became one of the most infamous examples of how rage and fame can combine into something deadly. Up next, we take a look at another fighter whose violent choices faces would stain the image of mixed martial arts forever. Lumumba Sayers Sr. Lumumba Sayers Sr. was far from your typical mixed martial artist. A submission expert who rose during Strikeforce's prime years, he built a reputation, taking on fighters like Anthony Smith, Derek Brunson, and Drew Dober. Sayers showed grit, talent, and determination. He had what it took to stand toe-to-toe with some of the sport's best. But despite his reputation inside the cage, his life was about to take a dark and heartbreaking turn. After years away from the spotlight, Sayers made a surprising comeback in May 2024, stepping into the world of bare-knuckle boxing at 45 years old. Fans were stunned to see the veteran back in the ring, older, wiser, but still driven by that same fighting spirit. His physical strength may have declined, but his desire to compete hadn't faded. He had already earned both an amateur title from Colorado's regional circuit and a professional belt under No Mercy Extreme Fighting. But just when it looked like his career might rise again, tragedy struck. In August 2024, Sayers Sr. was arrested for the fatal shooting of 28-year-old Malcolm Watson during a birthday party in Commerce City. According to police and prosecutors, this was no random act. It was revenge.
This coward shot my son. He just shot my son, man. That he grew up in. They killed my son.
The shooting came nearly 1 year after Sayers' own son, 23-year-old Lumumba Sayers Jr., was killed in another shooting. Reports say Sayers Sr. allegedly walked up to Watson and shot him once in the head and 4 times in the torso, apparently taking justice into his own hands. He was charged with first-degree murder, 2 counts of felony menacing, and 2 counts of tampering with evidence. What could have been a comeback story instead became a tragedy, a sharp reminder of how quickly life can unravel, even for those who've conquered the cage. Next on the list, we have Cain Velasquez, a legend who shocked the world when his own story took a similar violent turn. Cain Velasquez was once the king of the UFC heavyweight division, a fighter built for greatness, until his story took an unexpected and devastating turn. Born on July 28, 1982, in Salinas, California, Velasquez grew up passionate about wrestling. He became a 2-time Arizona state champion and later earned All-American honors at both Iowa Central Community College and Arizona State University, where he trained alongside future stars like Ryan Bader. His athleticism didn't stop at wrestling. Cain also played linebacker in high school, showing the same intensity that would later define his fighting career. Velasquez entered the MMA world in 2006, and soon he was one of the most feared heavyweights alive. His relentless, non-stop pace earned him the nickname Cardio Cain. By 2010, he had captured the UFC heavyweight championship after knocking out Brock Lesnar, defending and reclaiming it multiple times, and cementing his status as one of the division's most dominant champions. Fans remember his brutal wins against Junior Dos Santos and Antonio Silva.
The question, Mike, is going to be whether or not Bigfoot can deal with Cain's speed. Wow.
Though his career was repeatedly slowed by injuries. In 2019, after a short WWE run, he officially retired from MMA. But in 2022, Velasquez's name returned to headlines, this time for all the wrong reasons. That year, he was charged with attempted murder after allegedly chasing and shooting at Harry Goularte Jr., a daycare worker accused of abusing his 4-year-old son. When Goularte was released on bail, Velasquez reportedly pursued him in a high-speed chase, firing shots that hit Goularte's stepfather instead. The case divided the public. Some saw a desperate father seeking justice. Others saw a man crossing a dangerous line. Once a symbol of discipline and strength, Cain Velasquez now stood before the court, facing life-changing charges. He was arrested, denied bail twice, and eventually released under house arrest while awaiting trial. Pretty wild, right? Now let's move to Brett Rogers, whose fall from grace is just as shocking. Brett Rogers, known by his nickname, The Grim. Brett Rogers was once a rising MMA powerhouse, but his story quickly descended into darkness. Born on February 17, 1981, in Chicago, Illinois, Rogers grew up in the notorious Cabrini Green housing projects, one of the roughest neighborhoods in the city. Surrounded by gang activity and drugs, Rogers often had to defend himself and his younger brothers in street fights. Because of his size and toughness, gangs tried to recruit him, but he refused, believing he was meant for something bigger. At 12, he moved to Minnesota Minnesota to live with his grandmother, a move that changed the course of his life. In high school, he played football and basketball, but his real passion soon became fighting. Before turning pro, Rogers worked at a tire shop and joined tough man contests. Around that time, he started training with Team Bison in Bloomington, Minnesota, before switching to Ambition MMA in 2008. Rogers gained attention after signing with Elite XC, where he called out internet fighting icon Kimbo Slice, but it was his 2009 run with Strikeforce that pushed him into the spotlight. His biggest moment came when he knocked out former UFC heavyweight champion Andrei Arlovsky in only 22 seconds, but his momentum didn't last. Later that same year, MMA legend Fedor Emelianenko knocked him out in round 2. Behind the scenes, Rogers' personal life was falling apart. In 2011, he was arrested for a brutal assault on his wife, choking and punching her until she lost consciousness. He pleaded guilty, served 60 days in jail, and was placed on probation. Sadly, his legal problems didn't stop there. In 2016, he faced more charges, including public misconduct and multiple allegations of inappropriate behavior toward men in public spaces like elevators and restrooms. So, which of these stories do you think is the most disturbing? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to MMA Rivals so you don't miss the next ones.